Hi, I'm Owen Melton.
Hi, I'm Michael Williams.
Hi, I'm Jalen Kelly.
And this is our HORT 4050 group video project. Woo! Okay, there.
Cut. The first part of production was potting up the poinsettias. We got the poinsettias from James' greenhouse, and we potted them up into 6-inch pots. Next, we added the appropriate number of irrigation drip emitters into our greenhouse with the poinsettias and the plants we knew we were going to have in the future. After that, we added a 5, 15, 20 fertilizer solution into our stock solution, and that was feeding the emitters that were going to the poinsettias. We then potted up the rest of the plants into 4 and 6-inch pots, depending on which plants and what they needed. We then used the bonsai PGR, and that was added as a growth regulator. We then checked the pH and EC of each cultivar every week until the plant sale. Once the plants were grown to a healthy height, we checked and measured the height and width of the canopy each week until the end of the semester and the plant sale. Every single weekend, we also went there and checked and monitored for disease, used sanitation practices to clean up any debris that was on the floor that fell off the plants. So for fertilization, we prepared a 4-gallon stock solution of FEED 5, 15, 20 for the fertilizer. We added a 1.514 gram of fertilizer per 4 gallons of water to the stock solution. We then added MgSO4 to each plant pot. This is an Epsom salt that is non-soluble, so it would not mix with the water, so we couldn't add it to the stock solution. We had to put it in each pot separately. After that, we added a bonsai PGR, which to go into a little more detail about that was a 0.05 ppm to 0.2 ppm rate. And then this was the growth regulator, and it stunted stem growth and flowering for each of the plants, so we could have them prepped for the plant sale and have them grown the right size when we needed them. After the initial pot up, where we put the plants in the 4 and 6-inch pots respectively, we then spaced them in the greenhouse to make sure that we could see any disease that was forming or any problems we had going on in the greenhouse production. After rooting, the poinsettias were pinched to encourage fuller, rounder growth as they developed. Weekly, the plant's height was measured and recorded, and the pH and EC were gathered via the pour-through method and documented in our spreadsheet. The stock solution for fertilizer administration was checked regularly and adjusted as needed.
The next topic we'll be covering is pests and diseases. We were lucky enough to not have encountered that many pests in our greenhouse this year, with a few exceptions. We encountered root rot in one variety of poinsettias. We think that could have been caused by that variety of poinsettia being less tolerant to water than other variants we were growing at the same time. The rot didn't set in until just about the week of the sale, so in the end, we removed the severely affected plants and lowered the watering frequency, which prevented worsening symptoms. We also encountered fungus gnats due to thin layers of algae building up on the growing medias. We controlled their spread by spraying pesticides and using sticky traps to monitor their numbers.
To maintain the greenhouse at optimal productivity and efficiency, several practices were implemented. Deadheading, or the removal of flowers that had already bloomed and were wilting away, was implemented, as well as general removal of any dead foliage from poinsettias to discourage any pest from breeding and housing in the layers of dead foliage. Proper spacing of the plants so the benches weren't overcrowded was also observed so the plants could be monitored effectively. Some things that worked really well this semester were having the different groups rotating between the different benches really ensured that no minor problems went overlooked or unseen. Having the fresh set of eyes rotate in every week. Having a fresh set of eyes to evaluate the plant health and the overall maintenance of the bench made it so that each bench was kept clean and every group was held accountable by the group next to it. The plant sale was also a huge success. Nearly all of our plants looked really well and excellent, with a minor exception of our echinaceas, and everything sold really well. We nearly met our target, $4,000.
So, what went wrong? A few things went wrong in our greenhouse in almost every stage of production. From miscalculated fertilizer stock solutions to underwatering, we were able to get the full experience of growing plants in a greenhouse. One of the earliest challenges we faced were nutrient deficiencies in our poinsettias. The fertilizer solution was set to a 1:100 ratio, which was sufficient for our small plants, but as our poinsettias grew bigger, we started noticing signs of magnesium, molybdenum, and calcium deficiencies. We fixed these issues by individually applying fertilizer to correct our deficiencies and increase the injector ratio to 1/50. Another large issue we faced was mist and underwatering. Every few weeks, the irrigation system would be turned off somehow, and our plants would look thirsty and nutrient deficient. Eventually, people would continually check that the system was turned on and others would hand water, making sure our plants were being watered.
So things that we could have done differently. In hindsight, more emphasis could have been placed on consistently checking and keeping the stock solution tank full. Communication between the different groups could have been prioritized a little bit more just to ensure that the best quality care was given to the plants on a consistent basis. As opposed to the way that we had it, it felt a little bit disconnected and scattered when rotating between the benches.
One thing that I would do differently is either slowing down the rotation of table changes or not rotating tables at all. I feel like not being able to individually spend time with the plants that we were raising kind of hindered the experience of fully knowing how to grow each plant. So we had a wider variety but less depth, and I think overall it resulted in less volume. But other than that,
Thanks for watching.
Okay.
Alright.
3, 2.
I was like, what are we doing now?
There's enough words in there that surely you can piece together a full sentence.